Well, today's tragic incident that we are going to present before you was narrated by the famous Saudi Arabian preacher Muhammad al-Naqwi, who was told this incident by another Islamic scholar from Jeddah, Sheikh Abbas. A man called Sheikh Abbas and asked, "Can you come to our house and perform the funeral washing of a deceased person?" Sheikh replied, "All right." Sheikh went to that place. Sheikh Abbas says that when I went, it was not a house, it was a very big fort, where even after passing the main gate, it took 5 minutes to reach inside. Now just imagine how big the house must have been. When Sheikh entered inside, there were gardens and everything. Sheikh Abbas says that when I reached the door of the house, a man was standing there. He spoke to me in a disrespectful manner and said, "Go through this way. There are stairs to go up to the room." Sheikh Abbas was about 60 years old. Sheikh looked at him and said, "I am going." He said, "Will you go by yourself, or should I call a servant to take you?" Sheikh Abbas did not like that this was the same person who called and invited him. So he replied, "I will go myself. I don't need anyone." He again said, "If you don't know the way, I can send a servant with you." Sheikh looked at him and replied, "Look, I am not your servant. I have come here to perform a sacred duty. I am doing this for the sake of Allah. Either I will do it myself, or you can ask someone else to do it." That person replied, "All right, go." Sheikh Abbas says that the house was so big and clean that you could see your face in the tiles. Then he entered the bedroom. Sheikh says that the bedroom was quite big in size, but apart from 2 or 3 servants, no one was present there. Sheikh Abbas went to see the deceased. The body was covered with a sheet. When Sheikh Abbas lifted the cloth to see the face, he saw that ants were coming out of the nose and throat and were stuck to the neck. He saw that the entire body was covered with small ants. Sheikh was shocked, as everything around was clean. There was nothing on the floor. So where were these ants coming from, and why were they crawling all over the body? Sheikh Abbas says that I put the cloth back and thought, how will I do this? He says that he called another sheikh and told him about the issue. The other sheikh replied, "If you ask me about the common method of funeral washing, I can tell you. If you ask how to wash a burned body, I can guide you. If you ask about washing a body in pieces, I can still explain. But the condition you are describing, it is not mentioned in any book. Do whatever you think is right. I cannot say anything." That means he completely refused to give any advice. Sheikh Abbas then asked the servant standing there, "Who among the deceased's children is present here?" They replied, "No one." Sheikh Abbas then asked, "Who was the person I met downstairs?" They replied, "No one." The deceased man used to live alone in such a big house with only servants. Sheikh Abbas says that after that I went towards the bathroom of that room. Thoughts were coming to me from Allah. Otherwise, I did not know what to do. I filled the bathtub in that bathroom with water, then, with the help of the servants, lifted the dead body and placed it inside the tub. After doing this, the ants present on the body started floating on the water. Sheikh Abbas repeated this process several times so that all the ants would be removed from the body. Then he massaged the body of the deceased. All the ants were gone, but he was still surprised as to how all these ants had come onto the body in such a clean and tidy house. There was also no hole there from where ants could come from outside. Nevertheless, he took the deceased out of the water, placed him back on the bed, and began massaging the body again in the prescribed manner. He applied perfume and other things as is usually done. Then he finished his work, came downstairs, and when he was about to leave, he saw that the son of the deceased was walking. He went to him and said, "I have given your father the funeral washing, and if you need anything else to be done, tell me. I will perform that service as well." With great rudeness and disrespect, that young man spoke, "That room over there is for the drivers. Go there and eat food." Sheikh Abbas was shocked at what kind of behavior this was and what was actually happening. Why was he being spoken to in this manner? When he repeated again, "Go to the driver's room over there and eat food," Sheikh Abbas replied, "I am doing everything for the pleasure of Allah. I am not asking you for food or money." Sheikh Abbas then stepped out of that house and stood on the road because the driver who had brought him there was an employee of that same man, and Sheikh did not want to take any further help from that person. When Sheikh Abbas was standing outside, the rude man's son was also standing there. Soon, the deceased man's grandson, who was around 18 years old, arrived. Seeing Sheikh standing on the road, he approached him and spoke softly. "I apologize for this situation. Let me bring my car and drop you off." Sheikh Abbas says that despite my refusal, he brought his car and made me sit inside. Now, as is human nature, when people witness something good or bad, they try to understand the reasons behind it. So Sheikh Abbas wanted to know what kind of man this was, that even after his death he was being treated this way. Sheikh Abbas asked the young man, "Son, who was the person I just gave the funeral washing to?" He replied, "He was my grandfather. We all knew that ants were coming out of his body, so we didn't go near him because we didn't know what to do." Sheikh Abbas then asked, "What did your late grandfather do in his lifetime?" After a few moments of silence, the young man spoke, "Sheikh, my deceased grandfather used to raise his hand against his own mother. Without caring about anyone's dignity, he used to abuse and physically harm her." Sheikh Abbas was shocked to hear this. How could a living person commit such a disgraceful act? The young man continued, "My grandfather's mother even had visible wounds on her face. There were permanent scars on her face, hands and eyes." Then the young man further revealed, "My father, who is the son of the deceased man, even took his grandmother to the police station to file a complaint against him. But whenever the police officers asked her what had happened, she would always say that she had fallen down the stairs. She never spoke a single word against her son. And this physical abuse happened every single week. Yet the mother never reported anything. The son couldn't do anything against him because the abuser was his own father. But Allah was watching everything. So this man's end turned out to be such that when he died, neither his own son, nor his grandson, nor even his servants, not a single person in the house was able to help him. And on top of that, Allah sent the punishment of ants upon his dead body. No one knew where those ants came from or how they were biting his body. There is a hadith that states, breaking the bones of a deceased person is just like breaking the bones of a living person, meaning that a dead body feels the same pain that a living person does. Now just imagine, ants were crawling in and out of the deceased man's mouth, nose, ears and eyes, biting his entire body. What must he have been going through? A living person would scream in pain, but he remained silent, suffering in the punishment sent upon him. This is proof that the way you treat your parents affects not only your afterlife but also your life in this world. We should always pray to Allah Almighty that as long as our parents are alive, we get the opportunity to serve them, and when they leave this world, may we become a source of ongoing charity for them. If your heart agrees with this, then write Ameen in the comments section. We will meet again soon. Allah Hafiz.